our top focus right now is something that India's External Affairs Minister has said. Dr. S. Jaishankar has spoken about Pakistan in his first interview of the new year. He says that Pakistan's core policy has been to use cross-border terrorism to bring India to the table. However, India has made that policy irrelevant by simply not playing that game. Adding to the future of India-Pakistan relations, he said, and I quote, "We desire normal neighborly relations with all neighbors, including Pakistan. However, for this, an environment free of terror and hostility is imperative." Dr. S. Jaishankar further stated that Pakistan's future will be largely determined by its own actions and choices. It is upon Pakistan to find a way out of the difficult situation it now finds itself in, and that India and Pakistan relations today are not one where India can possibly play a role or be relevant directly to Pakistan's solution. Simultaneously, former U.S. Ambassador to India, Mr. David Malford, has also spoken about India's attitude and approach towards Pakistan's terror attempts since Prime Minister Modi's leadership took over, comparing it to when Manmohan Singh was Prime Minister and in power during the 2005 Delhi blast. We quickly listen into what is it that both the leaders have had to say before we take this conversation forward.
What Pakistan was trying to do, not now, but over multiple decades, was really to use cross-border terrorism to bring India to the table. Okay, that in essence was its core policy. We have made that irrelevant by not playing that game.
That would divide communities and destroy confidence between communities in India. And their plan was to attack markets all over India, which they did with crude pipe bombs and various other things. And that led up to the railway attacks in Mumbai, and then that led up to the hotel attacks. And at that point, Manmohan Singh's government debated whether or not to counterstrike, but the reasoning was a counterstrike won't get the people who did this. It won't. The camps are empty now. You won't achieve anything, and if it stimulates the Pakistanis to strike back, and then we strike back, it won't be long before Pakistan knows it's going to lose, and it'll reach for the nuclear closet. And I was with them on that decision, but this time, I think Modi was right. And once he's done that, there's nothing like punching a bully in the nose, in the playground.
All right, so there you heard it, what both Dr. S. Jaishankar and David Malford have had to say. Joining me on the broadcast is Ambassador Veena Sikri. I also have with me Group Captain U.K. Devnath, and we also have with us Major General J.K.S. Parihar. I will be joined by Adit Kothari shortly as well. Let me begin this conversation with Ambassador Veena Sikri. Ambassador Sikri, strong words there by Dr. S. Jaishankar. He says that Pakistan was initially using terrorism as a ploy to simply get India to the table, to have talks with India, and that we have now reversed that policy, made it entirely irrelevant by simply not engaging with a country that is known as the terrorism hub of the world. How exactly, ma'am, then do you feel India-Pakistan relations will shape themselves out for the future?
Well, I think first of all, we have to recall that it is the previous policies that had made this attempt of Pakistan to use cross-border terrorism as a weapon for forcing India into dialogue, because in the previous policy, the Indian army at the borders were not allowed to retaliate depending on the situation on the ground. And they had to take permission from the central government, from the defense ministry, in order to retaliate, by which time, of course, the situation had completely changed and reaction was perhaps no longer had any meaning. As a result, Pakistan was able to use cross-border terrorism and get away with it because the Indian forces at the border never had the right, the authority to react freely and independently as the defense situation on the ground demanded. Now we have seen in the post-2014 period, that the defense forces, the commander at the northern area commander, the commander at the site, they have complete freedom. And this has allowed India and enabled our defense forces to really effectively respond, more than effectively, to show Pakistan their place. And combined with this, we have had the surgical strike, we've had an unequivocal response that showing that India will not tolerate terrorism at the border, number one, and number two, that India will not have talks with Pakistan as long as terrorism at the border, cross-border terrorism, continues in any form or shape. So the previous, Pakistan policy of weakening India by 1,000 cuts, by bringing India to its knees, by showing that their forces are much stronger than ours, all this has been laid by the wayside, and these efforts is unchanging policy, because we have seen even from last week that this policy of Pakistan hasn't changed at all. But this policy has been made completely irrelevant. And Foreign External Affairs Minister Jaishankar is absolutely right. In his very brief comment, I must say that his interview was a very long one, a very good one, on his new book, Why Bharat Matters. And his relevant reference to Pakistan was not more than a few seconds, less than a minute. So, I mean, this really shows that we are prepared to deal with Pakistan as they are at the border. And unless they give up their policies, we are not going to be talking to them.
Ambassador Sikri, do you somewhere feel that the shift in policy vis-a-vis Pakistan is something that uniquely happened within India, or was it a shift in a global attitude and approach towards Pakistan? Because for a very long time, ma'am, we've been discussing how one cannot let a total breakdown occur in Pakistan because of the rampant terrorism. It's a nuclear state. You don't want those weapons to fall in the wrong hands. And therefore, there have been time and again several countries and international agencies coming together to bail out Pakistan and save it from a total economic, political breakdown. However, we see a slight shift. Yes, the IMF is still bailing out Pakistan. Yes, the World Bank is still continuing its operations. Yes, China does lend some money here and there. There's the Saudi and the UAE as well. But it's not as though the whole world, or at least even in America, that is really coming to Pakistan's rescue. So my simple question there being, ma'am, that this shift in policy, do you think it was unique to India or something that's happened across the world?
Well, I think the events of August 5th, 2019, when Article 370 has been made completely irrelevant, has further cemented India's shift. So now there is no locus standi to talk to Pakistan about Kashmir at all. We can only talk to them, number one, that please stop this cross-border terrorism, this time across the international border. And number two, we want POK back. So these are only the two remaining issues which are there on the agenda with Pakistan. And the earlier talk of comprehensive dialogue, including Kashmir, all that is completely out of the window after August 5th, 2019, when the Parliament took a very strong and good decision, and the Supreme Court has very recently upheld that decision, has said it's the right decision, and they support it. So I think that the whole issue of Pakistan going around to the other countries of the world, which they tried very hard after 2019, after August 5th, 2019, with no success at all. Even the OIC, even the Islamic countries, the countries of the Gulf, we've seen their response. So I think the world has realized after 75 years that this issue is no longer one that is going to grab the attention of the world community, and that India and Pakistan have to, now after August 5, 2019, as I said, there are only 2 points left to be talked. There's no more dialogue on saying about Kashmir and the people of Kashmir. All that is gone. It's no longer there. So now we only can talk about these events at the border, and we can talk about getting POK back. So I think that if they want to talk about that, well, that's fine. But if they want to continue with cross-border terrorism, well, India will handle it very well and very strongly, thanks to the strength and efficiency and leadership of our defense forces.
Okay, all right. Major General J.K.S. Parihar, then bringing you in on that point, sir. When we say that as far as India is concerned, are relevant topics today to discuss with Pakistan, one majorly being POK, until that continues to be the way it is right now, how do you think then India needs to take that aspect forward with Pakistan if we're not interested in, of course, and rightly so, engaging with them in any sort of a diplomatic chat or talk or any sort of diplomatic channels?
I would like to add on here that since 1989 onward, there are only two issues in Pakistan to deal or discuss with it to vacate the POK and to cut down or this cross-border terrorism has to be stopped. Before that, it was basically the POK issue was there. So there is no change last 40 years. So far, our stand is concerned and what we want to get it done. Regarding the military actions are concerned, before 2014, also the brutal military actions that the brigade and brigade levels have been going on, but the crossing the LOC was definitely or was not there. And this is not the solution for the POK getting merging with the India or to stop the cross-border terrorism is not a military problem at all. It's a diplomatic and political issue and it has to be dealt according to diplomatic channels only. And I would like to add on here that Ambassador will agree with that it is not the POK issue deliberately has been raised and brought by the Britishers in 1947 and it was nurtured by the US and other European countries. Even today, the US, though it has a shift from the 2014 towards the India, they have visualized India as a best partner to counter the China here. But they will not put all eggs in the same basket and they are still negotiating and dealing with the Pakistan. They have not stopped any aid to the Pakistan or to ask them to stop the terrorist activities. And another issue is when we talk about the POK. None of these countries, whether it's Russia, China, America, Europe, they have recognized our claims so far on the POK or in the excitement. It's a very, very disheartening for us that we are doing everything for the South, the China, the Quad level, but the America has not changed this policy so far. The POK is concerned. They all say it is a disputed area. And
absolutely. And Major G.K. Parihar, of course, India will not, I'm sure India does not at this point in time expect for any other third country to also have any clear policy on POK, and perhaps that's something that we don't even want.
So I just conclude this remark that as we are growing in our status in the economy, everything raises the finance. So when you become a superpower in the economic space, automatically the world will start listening to you. And there will be cross the counter check and balance will continue to do it. As on today, the Pakistan is nothing to lose to come on the table. Rather, they will be loser if they come on the table because POK is with them. And the solution for the POK is not the military. You cannot occupy the POK by simple military actions because when you start a massive, small surgical strikes are okay. But if you strike a massive attack on there, probably there will be these all US, Russia and China will definitely put India in a situation that you cannot afford to go with that. It is absolutely a political diplomatic issue and will be sorted out by the advancement of the Indian position in the diplomacy and in the finances. That you will find that suddenly like the West and East Germany were merged on the same manner. You may find the POK is getting into India, but definitely not the military action.
Absolutely. Okay. Adit Kothari, let me bring you to the conversation. Adit, the basic premise, of course, has been for a very long time for India that Pakistan must stop harboring terrorists, must stop sponsoring terrorism. And of course, on paper, it sounds very simple, right? But this is a country that has been engaging in terrorism since its inception, since the 47 war. We remember that even back then, it was the use of militants and terrorists by Pakistan that largely helped the army make the inroads that it did. How does then one take this idea forward? How do you get Pakistan to really stop with the terror activities? Because while their policy of terrorism may have been irrelevant in the sense that India today is not spooked by Pakistan. We don't go running to Pakistan expecting them to sit with us, have some sort of a diplomatic relationship with us for us to know that, okay, we are secure and safe and we are well equipped to take care of ourselves in the episode of an untoward incident. But we've just seen very recently in Jammu and Kashmir terrorist activities that have led to the loss of the lives of our personnel, that have led to the loss of civilian lives as well. So, all right, I seem to have lost Adit there, but let me take the same question with Group Captain UK Devnath. Group Captain Devnath, same question to you. So, how does then one strike a balance? Because like I said, the policy of Pakistan being able to use terrorism to bring India to the table, yes, it has been made irrelevant. But is there then anything else that really needs to be done perhaps more actively in order to actually ensure that Pakistan does not get the sort of support it needs for terrorism? Because honestly, we know where the money is coming in from. A country that is on the brink of economic collapse, we're not thinking that Pakistan is generating the money somewhere for its own terror activities. It's getting in the money from countries that don't want India to have stable borders.
Oh, Devika, let me start on a positive note. Like Imran Khan, Nawaz Sharif also has dropped some sound bites stating that he would like to have friendly relations with India. So to start with, I pray to God that on 8th of February, when elections take place, a very, very strong government of Nawaz Sharif, probably he should be able to make a very strong government so that he does not have to depend upon small parties. Many of them are terrorist oriented parties for forming his government. I only hope that PMLN on its own becomes powerful enough. Only then he will be able to rein his army generals and ISI mischief makers. As far as world is concerned, world is now aware, thanks to very, very vigorous campaign launched by our MEA and our diplomats all over the world, saying that and proving with dossiers and diplomatic correspondence that Pakistan remains hotbed of terrorism. State-sponsored terrorism is Pakistan's way of making its space in Southeast Asia. As far as we are concerned, we also have succeeded, Devika, to a large extent through the instrument called FATF, to put certain amount of financial restrained activities on Pakistan. Pakistan has tried of late very best to show, at least superficially, to the world community that it is not encouraging terrorism under pressure of FATF restrictions, that it is reining in all the terrorists, it is putting terrorists behind the bars. So probably Nawaz Sharif should be able to rein in his terrorism mechanism. Nawaz Sharif knows that in case Pakistan has to develop, in case they have to develop, increase their per capita income, in case their GDP has to increase, in case their literacy rate has to improve, then he has to make friends with India, then he has to trade with India. And there lies the crux. I am very sure that the day Pakistan wakes up and stops thinking about 1,000 crores to India, and instead of that starts thinking about trade, cultural relations with India, things will improve. 8th of Feb will decide to a large extent whether a strong democratic government comes into power on its own without support from any small terrorism-based political parties. Nawaz Sharif looks hopeful. Yes, Devika?
It's the same people though. Nawaz Sharif is not a new face in Pakistan, nor has he indicated that he wants to see a changed Pakistan, nor has he ever said that, yes, we harbor terrorism and I want to move away from that and look at newer horizons for Pakistan. He is, in fact, probably belongs to one of the most corrupt families of Pakistan.
Yes, Pakistan remains deeply, bogged down in their traditions. They belong to those eras when families and they ruled Pakistan. It continues in Pakistan even now. But good thing is that he is coming as Prime Minister for the 4th time. So once bitten, twice shy. Last time he was ousted by a military general. Musharraf finally found his place in heaven. Now I am sure that Nawaz Sharif, when he comes, first thing he will do is to keep the army generals within cantonment. He has played this game 3 times. Last time he was bitten, and now he will definitely ensure that after 8th of Feb, army, all that Pakistan army and ISI do is, keep within the cantonments and confine themselves to, war preparations, war training. He will need to rein in ISI. Probably he can learn a thing or two from other democratic countries where role of ISI should be, he has to cut it down to only military intelligence. He will have to raise another new, totally civilian intelligence intelligence agencies, on the line of KGB, on the line of CIA, on the line of Mossad, and maybe Indian intelligence agencies, where all the good, healthy democratic countries, military has got no role to play as far as international diplomatic and other intelligence is concerned. So probably ISI, should be able to nip, make the ISI a smaller bird, a bird which
Okay.
is confined within military matters.
Okay, all right. Adit, since you're back with us on the broadcast, let me take this thought forward with you. What do you think? As far as the elections are concerned, I mean, has Pakistan really reached a stage where a political party can be seen as bringing about any sort of change as far as the army's grasp over the country is concerned? Because we see how for many decades it is the army generals and your Fauji corporations, and we've put it out on NewsX so many times, how it's more of a business and a business association and the industries that the army runs rather than being an actual army themselves. Do you really think that a Nawaz Sharif coming back to power in Pakistan will bring about the sort of very drastic and very dramatic change that a Pakistan will require to pull itself out of this very easy-going concept that the elite of Pakistan have found, where the politicians and the army has found that you just get in the money, pump in money from different countries into your terrorist hubs, and that's how you keep the economies going, and that's how we fill our coffers, and we don't really care about what happens to the rest.
Thanks for having me, Devika. I think any government that gets into Pakistan, gets elected into Pakistan, will not change the status quo. And the status quo is that Pakistan is essentially controlled like how East India Company used to run India, where there is a company and the company has an army, and then the army is essentially controlling the politics of the day. Where here the East India Company is essentially the Fauji Foundation, and the Fauji Foundation controls the military, calls the shots on the military, and the military essentially controls the political dispensation in Pakistan. So any political dispensation or political party that gets elected is just a facade at the end of the day. Remember that agreement between the United States and Pakistan post Musharraf. It was agreed that the army would never come into, would never take control of power in Pakistan, and would essentially will always continue to play from the back door, and that will continue to be the status quo. Pakistan's whole existence since its inception is to be anti-India. So when a country was created essentially to be anti another country, they will strive only, they will only resort to terrorism. They will only resort to unsolicited means of politics, and they will only try to hurt India with 1,000 cuts. And that is essentially going to be their modus operandi, no matter what has happened. So fortunately for us, this government has understood that. They have taken cognitive steps. They have, decided not to play into the narratives of the Pakistanis. Essentially, External Minister Jaishankar has become one of those unique foreign ministers who's actually not paid any visits to Pakistan, and he's essentially trying to neutralize that particular situation at this point. So given that Pakistan is essentially getting quite unperturbed by that particular issue, they are getting very frustrated with how India is essentially acting up, and India is essentially trying to ensure that the world is leaving Pakistan into a drip feed scenario where there are funds coming in, there is enough monies coming in, but only to ensure that Pakistan stays alive and doesn't become an issue for India. So there are no civil disobedience. Civilians are not running towards their western border and are not becoming a problem for India, to say the least. So all in all, this particular government has done fantastically well when it comes to handling Pakistan as its neighbor. Devika.
Okay. All right. At the same time, Adit, then we've also seen in the recent past now several, on the flip side, I'd like to say, several terrorists, heads of terror organizations within Pakistan, terrorists of the elite, and just yesterday there was news of Masood Azhar as well. of them being shot under mysterious circumstances, people dying, terrorists dying under mysterious circumstances. What do you think then is happening? Because clearly it is someone within Pakistan who's perhaps giving those orders. What message is then being sent out to the world?
Well, when it comes to the Hafizides and the other terrorists who Pakistan has sort of harbored platform all throughout these years, and now when they are falling like flies, it only goes out to point that the Pakistani establishment is probably not happy with their current scenario, where they have become essentially ineffective. So Pakistan doesn't want to use those actors anymore, and they're essentially going after them. I don't think we should be insinuating anything other than that. This is only a Pakistani internal matter when it comes to what is happening with the terrorists that they have they have continued to platform and protect. Let's not forget the kind of security apparatus that these terrorists have got all along. And now to suddenly see them being retracted is essentially pointing out that it's the Pakistani dispensation that is not happy with the unsuccessful programs that these gentlemen have been running, and which is why they're of absolutely no use to the Pakistani dispensation any longer. There we go.
Okay, Major JKS Parihar, I'd just like to understand from you as well, sir. Same question to you. What do you think is happening as far as these mysterious deaths of terrorists in Pakistan is concerned? Is there somewhere, if these orders are being given by the Pakistani establishment to take some of these so-called bad apples out of the system in case that they were going rogue, what message, is there a message, or is it Pakistan now just doing whatever it can to perhaps save itself from the snakes it had harbored?
No, I don't think that they are stopping activities of terrorists in their country. Definitely, because it is the biggest industry what they are running, and IS and army will continue to have the supremacy, and Nawaz Sharif has been brought by the army only by putting the Imran out. So what I would say, yes, it's something like a smoke screen. The big names, when they are killed or died or any unfortunate situation, then the message goes that these are eliminated, and the Pakistan's international position, the diplomatic era, becomes stronger. But basically what happens is something like a superannuation. Like we all get superannuated, these all big terrorists, when they are become non-functional type, their own organization, these ISI, they develop the other people to come forward, and these irrelevant people are eliminated. So it's a both way, that you are updating your system which can continue to function against the India, as well as have the in the world order they make a image that yes, we are working against the terrorists, those who have been active for decades together. So nothing new in it.
Okay, all right. I'm going to leave the last word with Ambassador Sikri. Ambassador Sikri, just want to understand from your perspective, ma'am. Just a few days ago, there were also reports of how Pakistan is saying that we will not be extraditing Hafiz Saeed to India because we don't have a direct extradition treaty with India. So they're using all the tricks in the book to ensure that a man who's seriously wanted in India for conspiring and conducting major bomb blasts in our country, they're ensuring that they use all the tricks in the book to keep him in Pakistan and to keep him safe. In such a scenario, do you think that the world's depleting interest in Pakistan as a whole, as I've pointed out earlier as well, does that work somewhere in India's favor, or will that in the long run go against our policy with Pakistan and how we wish to deal with Pakistan if we're not able to get the world interested in the sort of terrorism that Pakistan is harboring?
Look, first and foremost, India has to defend its own interests. And I think that our foreign policy of Prime Minister Modi and External Affairs Minister Jaishankar is effectively doing that, because we are explaining unequivocally our point of view to the world and pointing out where and when Pakistan is going wrong. I completely do not agree that these are going to be free and fair elections. We know that the army is in full control behind the scenes. And in fact, we were all shocked to see very recently, a week or 10 days ago, when the Pakistan Chief of Army Staff was in Washington and received by the Secretary of State, Blinken, and by other senior leaders as if he was a politically elected leader of the country and not the elected leader. So I think that, other countries are playing their own games, but we have to go ahead and protect our own interest. And this we are doing, I think, very well and will continue to do. There's such a mockery of democracy that while you may say about Hafiz Saeed and recognition that he was in some way involved, but still he's not being extradited, but his son is standing for the elections. And he's being allowed to form a political party and stand for elections. So what is this all about? The political parties, quasi-route of various terrorist organizations is still continuing. So all this is for India to take note of. But we have to also recognize that Pakistan is in a terrible state and the people want change. So I don't think that this kind of continuation of army control is leading Pakistan to any kind of a satisfactory outcome as far as the economy, the people's welfare is concerned. The leaders don't seem to be bothered in any way about the people's welfare, and you only see, various programs of theirs always saying, "Oh, look how India has done so well," and so on. We don't need anything. We need a prime minister like Prime Minister Modi to rule our country. So that may be what the people are saying, but at the top, it's the army that's calling the shots, and they are not going to change their views, because we know even in the past when there was almost going to be, a declaration of most favored nation status from Pakistan for India, it's the army which came out absolutely categorically with their own press release saying we do not support it and it will not happen. There is no change at all in the army's position. Have no two opinions about that. They are controlling the roost. They are controlling everything from A to Z, who comes in, who goes out. But we have to protect our own interests, and that's what we have to show our own forte at, and we have to explain this to the rest of the world. This is something that we have to go on doing. It's not that just by keeping quiet on Kashmir we'll be able to convince the world. We have to take a proactive position, point out everything like this which is happening, lay it all bare for the rest of the world to see, and continue with our effort to bring a unanimous opinion of the world on counter-terrorism. This has been a big effort of India, even in the United Nations and other places, but it's such a difficult situation that even the definition of counter-terrorism does not find agreement universally. But still, we cannot give up. We have to go ahead with it, and that is what will bring us results, along with a pointed campaign, country by country. All those who are feeling it necessary to meet the Chief of Army Staff, they should really know what the situation in Pakistan is all about.
Right, absolutely. Master Sikri, thank you so much for those concluding thoughts and views. And on that note, I also thank all of our panelists for joining us to take this very important debate on Pakistan forward. That's all the time that we have.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.